What really matters? Welcome. And today, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. What does really matter? We touch on a lot of different topics on all these different channels, all mostly based on the past and what happened in our past. What happened to the past civilization? Why weren't we told about it? And is the past going to repeat itself? And when? So many different angles and clues, and we could consider Tartaria. Tartaria shown on so many different maps from the past, and always leaving us to consider, were these respected map makers such as Ortelius and Mercator simply madmen, along with countless others, depicting this nation or empire or simply people of Tartaria, and whether one is to believe that this people ruled all throughout this realm, or just select to the regions of Central Asia, moving west, north, and east. The idea that we were never taught of these people, and that they seem to have been erased from our history, is enough reason to say that these people in this part of the puzzle matters. Who were these people? How did they live? And why is this knowledge being kept from us? Now, I'm sure by now many of you have seen the CIA document talking about this exact subject, the erasing of Tartaria in history, and not actually done by the CIA, but the CIA simply having commentary on the subject in a memo that I believe was now declassified, and many question the authenticity of this document, but nonetheless, very interesting. And what about the reset? Does the reset really matter? And what is the reset? The reset is an idea that we have clues of past and much more magnificent civilizations than our own existing as little as 200 to 400 years ago, based on the architecture and layouts of our cities and forts, which in past times were called bastion forts and what we call star forts, existing all throughout this realm. Things that we can't replicate today, and really not being hidden at all, just given ridiculous stories on how they were created, and in modern times being repurposed for many different things, one being the pedestal for our Statue of Liberty, and in other instances being backfilled with dirt and turned into golf courses. But back to the reset. Does the reset matter? And if you're interested in survival, I suppose it does. And if you're interested in simple history, then it does as well. To me, it is clear there is a reset, what seems to be every 400 years. And it seems to involve water and fire. Oftentimes the fire being a byproduct of what seems to be a plasma electrical discharge raging through our realm, causing canyons and melting cities overnight. And in other cases, we see the results of massive flooding. And not only flooding that came from oceans in a horizontal direction, but waters that came from beneath, pushing up and displacing the land and causing new and varied elevations, in many cases causing what we call mudflood to seemingly bury the lower levels of buildings, in some cases completely burying cities entirely. And we can see examples of this found everywhere. And this leads right into mudflood. The mudflood is a mystery to us, many different theories coming from all angles. And again, this could be the result of water, or it could be the result of this plasma discharge, this superheated event that renders matter and formerly buildings into what now looks like mud. And we see this everywhere, especially in the North American Southwest. But in many cases we do see mud flood in major cities with no sign of any heat damage. And when we look at these cataclysms with mud flood and plasma discharges pertaining to resets, the big question, once one begins to wrap one's head around this notion, is how do these resets occur? Are these a product of man or non-humanoid? Or is this more of a natural cycle? And I tend to believe that it is a cycle, again, every 400 years. And I have some very exciting research to share with you on that subject, but it deserves its own video. And this reminding me of a larger season, a grand cycle. Many cultures sharing these cycles, calendars and artifacts left behind long after the people that made them disappeared. And it is clear that there's different resets. Again, the Native Americans tell us there have been 5. And this very last reset that seems to be 200 to 400 years ago, as I've mentioned in past videos, does not seem to be or have been as violent as prior resets. Prior resets turning structures, and some of the most massive structures, into unrecognizable, what we call mountain. And yet when we look at this past reset, we see the most beautiful architecture in the world. The same architecture used most often for government, capitol buildings, courthouses, post offices, and so many other municipalities. But not limited. The architecture from this past civilization and this past reset remains intact, built of the finest quality, built in a far superior fashion than anything we build today. And the buildings remain, and they are still so new looking that our people had the gall to write silly stories about them, and how our primitive horse and carriage people built these structures with a very small, unskilled population so recently, and all the people are gone. And here we've been trying to figure out what happened in ancient times, and yet now we begin to understand. Beyond 200 years we know very little about the history of our existence. And here we contemplate the past and what happened to the past people, in which we've inherited all of their buildings and cities and infrastructure. And the next question is simply, where did we come from? And perhaps that was a mouthful. I guess I'll leave it at that for today. I hope you enjoyed, and do have a blessed day. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And here for a quick little bonus feature, I just wanted to share this shiprock featured in my last video. And while investigating a little further as to whether or not this ridge line down here may be a wall, I found this image. And here, a nice little close-up, not the best picture, but clearly what appears to be blockwork in ruins. And now we're told that this is the result of volcanism, and upon examining this wall a little closer, we don't see anything that looks like the result of a volcano. A place I look forward to examining soon in person.